Hello, everybody. My name's Jason.
And I'm Sam.
Welcome back to Doctor Who.
Controversial.
Today, we're going to be discussing the Disney collaboration, which obviously has its controversies for various different reasons.
Yeah,
I have some strong feelings on it.
I do as well. Probably not as strong as you do for reasons that we'll get into.
Yeah, and I think we have very different reasons
Yeah.
for it because we different places in our lives where I think
Yeah.
that mine's slightly political. I will warn people of that,
Yeah.
especially if you're British.
Yes.
And I mean no offence to anybody outside of the UK, and I am not trying to gatekeep. I will make that very clear. It's not about gatekeeping this content.
Yeah.
But it may sound like that. Listen to me and let me get through it because
Yeah.
I'm not saying that nobody deserves to have this content first or anything. But
Yeah.
there is a reason why I believe that it's wrong the way that it's being done.
Yeah. So, do you want to go first and explain your position, or do you want me to go first?
I think we'll talk overarchingly how we feel about it first,
Yeah.
then we'll go into our personal reasons why.
Yeah. Okay.
So, as a concept, as Disney doing the marketing for it, I think it's great. I think
Yeah.
having that cash injection is fantastic. Having
Yeah.
the reach for it is great.
Yeah.
I think having a budget that allows bigger and better things to be done,
Yeah.
also fantastic. I am a little bit concerned that it will get too marvelly and it will
Yeah.
get too fantastical.
Yeah.
And as much as Doctor Who is fantastical, it's always kept itself quite humble at the
Yeah.
same time. And Disney isn't really known for its humble.
Braggadocious.
Yes, it is slightly. It's and I'm fearful that that Doctor Who will, for me personally,
Yeah.
be too big for its boots and
Yeah.
start doing things that I would never have expected it to
And
do.
I think particularly with Russell T Davies at its helm, he's not someone who takes his ego off and stuff.
No, and it's kind of like it's kind of like Russell T Davies' ego feeding into Disney's ego, feeding
Yeah.
back into Russell T Davies's ego could be quite dangerous.
Yeah.
Especially if nobody's saying no to either side.
And one of the things that with Disney in particular is one of my anxieties over it, because I've started to see this happen already, is that if it doesn't land well, you'll still get a lot of people who are on the internet, particularly on YouTube, who might still like it, and so it gives the appearance of, oh yes, everything's still fine.
Yeah.
But I think you might start to see people drift away, not because of anything actually narratively, just because of the situation with Disney and the apparent influence it already seems to be having where it's very Americanized, like the tagline for the series one, which is technically series 14.
Yeah, we've got
That's a whole
one
other
side.
that's a whole other discussion. Is something like your Galactic Joyrider, where it's something like that. You already inserting Americanisms into it. It's like
Yeah, which I think is possibly to try and
yeah,
put it towards an American audience,
yeah.
but that's not never what Doctor Who's been.
It's always been it's always, and the thing that's actually, at least from what I've seen of people who are American who talk about it, is that it's the fact that it's very British.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If it ends up losing what it is,
Yeah.
then it'll lose that
Yeah.
charm that it has, and I think
Yeah.
that charm would translate across America. I don't think that
Yeah.
it's going to be lost
Mm.
that much. I think there are going to be people, as there are here. I mean, most of my family really don't like Doctor Who,
Yeah.
so it's absolutely okay that they don't.
Yeah.
But trying to mold it into something else so it fits into other
Yeah.
people's.
Because one of the things that was always said about the TV movie is that it's Doctor Who way too Americanized, and it sort of isn't. There's ways in which it is. There's ways in which it isn't. Like there are moments in the TV movie which are still very quintessentially Doctor Who moments where it's like there's one moment where he steals a police officer's motorcycle, and the way he does it is by offering him a jelly baby, and whilst he's distracted getting a jelly baby, he steals his gun and says, now hand me the keys to your motorcycle before I shoot to myself, or something like that. That's a very Doctor Who thing to do. Instead of pointing at you and say, give me the keys, I will point at myself and say, I will shoot myself.
Yes. And we don't want to lose those that way. So we don't want it to turn to him using a gun against somebody else, for instance, because that would be so against what, apart from the fugitive Doctor. But other than that, that doesn't happen. And that's sort of entrenched in law for us that the Doctor is a pacifist. with some tendencies towards not being sometimes, but there is a limit. We know where that limit is, and the Doctor knows where that limit is.
The Doctor is someone who always aspires to be a pacifist, sometimes isn't because of situation.
Yeah. Situational pacifist.
Yeah. Situational pacifism. That's got to be really awkward philosophical.
Yeah. I'm not defending it. So that is my concern. Obviously not there yet with it, and obviously we've got a whole series coming up that we can start judging that a little bit more on. I just don't want it to lose the charm that it's got, and I think that it would be the wrong move because that's what, like you say, the people in America who do watch it, they watch it for that charm.
Yeah.
And you don't want to lose your current fan base, both here and in America, because you're trying to fit it into a different fan base.
And if you do try and if it does try to do that, it will kill itself before it actually manages to get a new fan base because it's not already established.
I have no issue if they use the extended universe, as in the new extended universe, as in the Disney extended universe, to do that. So if they want to bring other people in, do it outside of the main show and have them as spin-offs. So then we as current fans can choose to watch it or not watch it, and see it as a separate entity. Absolutely fine with that. I don't have as big an issue as a lot of people seem to have with the fact that there are going to be so many spin-offs by the sound of it. Do as many as they want. You can watch them, you don't watch them, it's your choice.
I probably will only be watching if I think it's something that's going to be interesting. Generally, my philosophy towards
I'm not overly interested in the idea of a unit spin-off. I know a lot of people are really looking forward to that. For me, I'm not.
No.
If there was another Torchwood-esque sort of series, I would probably watch it. If there's ones that delve more into other stories that we've already seen, I would be interested.
I have a question for you. Unit in the way it's now portrayed is very different to how it was portrayed in the early days of New Who, where I was referencing back to the old style of unit, where it's very much a military formation that fought aliens. Whereas these days it's more of a, not so much clandestine group, but it's more of a covert operation. So with that in mind, if there was a unit spin-off that was made, and it was essentially Torchwood unit style, would that work for you, do you think? Or would it be...
I don't know.
Because Torchwood in and of itself is very similar to unit in that they are some very much shooty killer aliens. And so it'd be
interesting. I mean, when I say I'm not interested, I wouldn't be interested in it. I would watch a few to see whether I would be. It's the... I don't know what it is that I don't like about the idea, but I don't like the idea, if that makes sense.
I can understand why, because unit already somewhat features prominently within Doctor Who itself. It is already quite heavily explained within Doctor Who. It doesn't necessarily need a spin-off. And like what we said with the first RCD period, when you had Sarah Jane Adventures and Torchwood, those quite naturally worked as spin-offs, because one was very much young children, other one was, and then one was teenagers / adults. And that kind of
and Doctor
Who
bridged those
and
two
then
things
Doctor
together.
Who bridging into. I think if they were to do unit and do it in a very Torchwood style way, I think that could work, but that would mean being very late teenage, adult oriented, which Disney is not known for doing.
They do it more now than they ever have done.
Yeah, they're starting to do it more now, but I think particularly with Doctor Who, I can't see that going in that direction. And I can see it more going in the Marvel direction, which is, if you're doing spin-offs, I don't really want it to go in that direction, because it's just spin-offs for the sake of spin-offs.
It needs to add value for me to watch them. It needs to add value to the current lore and the current the current timeline and what's happened, and it needs to give me more of what I've already got and go in more in depth.
And either be targeted at a different audience or be done in a very different style.
I would love them to do various different styles and different ways of so having some animated, some stop motion, that type of thing. It'd be great if they really went into that and did various different things.
Because with the reconstruction that they've done of the Celestial Toymaker, that's all done. I can't remember if it's stop motion animation or it's a form of animation that they've done for all that, which makes it really weird looking, and loads of people, and quite a few people were really annoyed about that because it's very different to the previous animations.
Right.
I think it quite works, because the whole point is that they have in the toy maker as well.
Yeah.
So I quite like it as an idea of reconstructing it that way.
Yeah, I think if you're adding sort of sinisterness to something, then using something like stop motion will make it more sinister and will add to the feel of it quite quickly. And it gives it variety. So I'm quite happy for them to go down different routes of using. I just don't want it to be. I'd hate them to go down the Marvel route with Unit, for instance. I definitely wouldn't be. I like Marvel, but it's separate. I don't want it to be all superhero-y. It's meant to be Earth's defense of.
And quite often, Unit is kind of there to show that humanity gets the crap kicked out of it when it's fighting aliens. Like how many times do you see Unit managing to successfully defeat aliens?
Exactly.
Because that's another thing as well. Which I don't think this will happen. Just because if we're going down the Marvel precedent, is to have a sense of capability. So it's like the Doctor can handle a massive invasion for the Daleks.
Yeah.
Unit can't, and we've seen this within Doctor itself. Like still on Earth again his end.
Yeah.
Massive invasion of Daleks, and was just like, you can't deal with this. We're dead.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So, and I don't want it to get to the point with Spinoffs like Unit, where it is very much big life scale.
Yeah, that's my worry about it.
Which is where I think it might
be
go.
Shooting aliens down all the time.
Yeah, and it's like Unit is, particularly in the modern series, it's not designed to do that anyway. It's much more. It is militarized, but it's more of a covert operation.
Yeah. We'll see with it. I don't see that I would like a Unit spin-off, but I'm not saying I wouldn't try it out and see whether it would work.
Another thing that I think is definitely what I can see coming spin-off wise, particularly if we was at the second series of True, is that we get a 14th Doctor and Donna spin.
I feel like that might have been set up.
Yeah, because I know that even when was even before Doctor Who officially came back to Doctor Who, was kind of saying, it was already kind of saying that Doctor Who should kind of do what Marvel's been doing, and why can't you have a limited series where it's the 10th and 11th Doctors having an adventure together and stuff like that. I was like, no, don't do this, please. Yes, we all like seeing previous incarnations of Doctor. That's what multi-Doctor stories are there for. They are there so you can have an older Doctor come back, and
you can have a splash of nostalgia.
But even with multi-Doctor stories, for the most part, generally, they are mostly there to push the actual story forward. Sometimes they're not, like the two Doctors. They're not there for that reason. Every now and then, that it being like that is fine, but
doing a whole series of it could be a problem.
And it's one of those things where, as an idea, it's going to run out very quick. It's just going to very become reliant on nostalgia. But these are two Doctors that you used to like. Let's watch them have an adventure together.
Yeah,
it's like that's not going to hold.
No, it needs to have a purpose and a moving forward element to it. So my very personal view on my problems with it is the release date and the way that and the TV.
For us here in the UK at least.
So in the UK I don't know how many people know this in America. I think it's probably become a much bigger subject since this has happened.
It'll probably blown up a lot more.
Yeah, especially within the Doctor Who fandom. I think you'll probably be starting to hear this. So not gatekeeping. I would have no issue with America having this first and us having it second. You could have it before us, you could have it a week before us if I wasn't paying a legally enforced payment in this country to be able to watch Doctor Who. So I have an issue with
actually going to explain how that works, because I don't know how many people actually understand the TV license from an outside of Britain perspective.
So from the BBC, with the BBC, we pay what's called a licensing fee,
which basically means you give a certain amount of money to the government, and they then put that into the BBC for programming purposes.
Yeah, so that's then given to the BBC so that they ensure that we have balanced reporting on news, that we have balanced entertainment. Well, theoretically, that's a completely different situation. That we also have educational programs that probably wouldn't have been made on a commercial basis, that we have radio that has a good variety of things on it between talking and music and various other things. So it allows the country to have unbiased reporting and unbiased information and the ability to learn things for free.
Yeah.
But it's not free.
It's there for public use, but the public actually pay toward it, so it's not free.
Yeah. and it's the equivalent to about a week's salary. So that is a considerable amount of money that we have to pay for that. So it is very jarring when you realise you're going to be getting something, and again, not at the same time. That bit is in itself isn't a problem. And it isn't a problem. I will actually point this out. It coming out at midnight absolutely isn't a problem for me. I'm always up at midnight, so it really doesn't matter to me. I'm more annoyed for the whole of the UK audience more than anything that it's at a time that is unreasonable for younger people to watch it as it comes out without potentially getting it ruined for them by people saying what's happened.
Particularly because young people these days have quite a strong online presence.
Exactly, and they're going to. As somebody who likes Doctor Who, who's young, is going to be active on Doctor Who social media pages, which is then going to give them spoilers, which is completely, in my view, unfair. When their parents and then them in the future are going to have to pay a fee to pay for this. And I know Disney has paid money into the marketing side of things, but we have basically paid for 60 years worth of building this up through force. It's like I say, it's legally enforceable. We can be prosecuted for not paying it to the point of where it can eventually get to the point of 6 months in prison. It takes a long time to get to that point. I will point that out. And you would really not have had to pay it and have ignored them and had the equipment.
Really gone out of your way to.
Yeah, but when you can potentially go to prison for watching something, for watching something if you didn't pay for it, and then you get it at the same time as somewhere else, doesn't matter where it is, and they're getting it at a more convenient time for them, it's extremely jarring. So I would have been, I think we would have all been very happy if it had have just been the other way around, that it was at our normal time and a less convenient time maybe for other territories.
Yeah.
But that isn't, again, it's not about gatekeeping. It's about the fact that, I suppose it's my bigger feelings on the TV license in general. I'm not a happy person when it comes to paying it each year. So to then have this taken away, my favourite thing. The only thing I really watch on the BBC as well, ironically. So
so
paying.
When people say, "Oh, people who access it through Disney Plus things like that, they're paying money to us," it's like we are, and in your case, like you said, this is the only thing you really watch. And for me, it's broadly similar.
Yeah. So paying hundreds of pounds to watch.
Paying £200 a year to watch one TV series of 8 episodes.
Yeah, well, yeah, because there's also the reduction of episodes now as well. So there's that. Yeah. So it's just been very jarring that, but it isn't anything against anybody or any territory. It's more of an annoyance towards my government to kind of say, please stop charging us something that we shouldn't be charged.
One of the things that I brought up when we've talked about this, and you've said about that, is that what they actually did for the 60th was a lot better in that the idea was simultaneous release, so it airs in the UK and it also airs.
Yeah, absolutely fine with that. But it just needs to be on the side of it being that, not that we get it first, but that we can't be ruined for us, I think is probably what it is.
Yeah, because it's such a big time gap.
Yeah.
I think. And it's always something that you're never going to be able to square it as a circle because of how time zones work.
Yeah. No, so it has to. Somebody's going to have to lose out on it to an extent. But if you're trying to bring in a new audience, which is kind of the argument for this, they're not going to get it ruined for them because they're not already fans of it. So
and it's like we said, it's not even necessarily a globally focused thing. It's very much America centric, which is the second largest audience for Doctor Who after the UK. But there are plenty of places, some of which that you wouldn't actually believe are major points of people watching Doctor Who, like places like Japan and Korea. Doctor Who actually has a fairly big following there because one thing that I think particularly now people tend to miss out on is that for the launch of Series 8, Doctor Who actually did a world tour and actually went around several major countries around the world where Doctor Who was popular, and one of them was like Korea, Japan, places like that.
Yeah. So when people are getting frustrated by it, everybody, it is not aimed at anybody, and it's not, and it isn't gatekeeping. It's probably more of an internal frustration that we have in this country at the moment.
Yeah, it's more of a political issue.
Yeah.
That
it's representing itself in what's happened in this situation.
Yeah.
I do not resent anybody being able to see Doctor Who at the same time as me. No. That is not the problem.
This is something that we've talked about what we're going to do about it, because it is something that you feel very strongly about, and how can we show our discontent in a respectful way?
Yeah.
And so what we have decided to do is that because of how the BBC works and how it gauges viewing figures, it only monitors viewing figures up to 28 days. And so what we will be doing as a form of protest is to watch each episode after that 28-day time span has run out. So 28 days after that first episode is dropped is when we will watch that first episode, because it won't be counted in the official viewing figures.
Yeah. So it's making that point of saying we're not, from the BBC's perspective, they've lost us as a viewer.
Yeah.
I also probably will watch it through Disney rather than watching it through BBC, just to make that point as well.
Yeah.
But I don't want to add to Disney's viewing figures either, so it will be still the 28-day thing, but on Disney rather than it being on
yeah, because most streaming services only count up to 28 days anyway.
Yeah. So it will, hopefully more people will do that and will make that point. And any British people listening that are thinking about doing that, or want to make a point, do that.
Do that. Don't just rant on social media or do anything else. That is the best way possible that you can protest this, because it's the most likely way that you're going to actually be able to influence the decision.
Yeah. So, anyway, on that note, I am really looking forward to seeing what Disney does with it, but cautiously.
Yeah, we are cautiously optimistic, because there are ways that it could go, which are potentially very good, like we've said, with the spin-offs, it could go somewhere which is very good. There's other ways where it will probably still be very good for a majority of people, but we won't be as interested in it.
Yeah. And I implore Russell T Davies, implore Russell T Davies to listen to the fans, not just run with his own mindset and things. I don't mean listen to every fan, but when they're telling you something, especially around viewing figures and that type of thing.
Yeah, that was. Don't know about the rest of the world, but particularly here, that was really something that was sort of kicked back on.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't believe in listening to everything fans say, because obviously he's got to find his route. But when something's really not good for the fan base, don't do it.
Yeah,
or change it.
And particularly someone like Russell T Davies, where he's spent the last several years being very vocal about how we should try to protect the BBC, and now it's sort of saying the BBC is done for.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you spent the last several years saying that all these things and having a very intimate knowledge of how the BBC works.
Yeah.
And then there's this come along, so it's like.
Yeah. And it's also been his bread and butter for most of his career, so it's not really fair that now he's doing that. But anyway, that's a totally different a different set of circumstances. We're not doing a Russell T Davies video.
No.
Yet.
Yes.
So thank you very much for listening, and you'll hear us. I do this every time.
You will not see us, because we're so used to doing videos if you know our channel, but you will hear us next time.
Thank you very much.